Hey, hey, infinite beings, welcome along to the Infinite Me, where every day, yes, we're here talking about being not more infinite, bringing more infiniteness into your life. So our big declaration is that you're already infinite. You don't need to go out and find it or discover it or open it up. We just got to use it. So we have discussions every day about how to incorporate more of it into your life, how to see evidence of it all around you. Right now, it's already there, and how you can utilize that. So I'm Nat, and over there is Mandy, my sister. Yes, she's my sister. So yesterday we spoke about hard work. This one was a bit near and dear to both of us. We've come from a family of hard workers. Our dad worked for 40 years in the same company, and we were sort of feeling that a lot of those I guess belief systems and programs and stuff have been incorporated into our lives, and that's not necessarily conducive to being infinite and playful and being creative and being spontaneous when you feel like working. Yes. So it's taken a lot to really break down that construct, I guess, that we have, that we always have to be working. We have to work long hours, and if you work longer hours, the better off you're going to be. And it's definitely a virtue to work hard. So that was a really interesting discussion. So if you're feeling like you're a bit drained from doing lots and lots of work all the time, and you just never seem to stop, then that probably would actually be a good one to watch. Yes, that's really good. Yes. All right. So today we never know what we're going to actually talk about, because we do the infinite lucky dip. So Mandy has her little bag of topics there that we've intuited at different times, and we write them on our little pieces of paper, and every day we pull out a little topic, and that's what we talk about. So let's see what our topic is today. This is how on the spot this actually is. We don't even know what we're going to talk about.
Green one?
It's the energy of green, the heart chakra.
Okay. Where are you in the awakening journey? Stages of the awakening journey, if you like.
Okay, cool, good one.
That there's probably exact steps that you go through, but it's kind of
tends
to be a bit of a
pathway.
Bit of
yes,
natural progression, if you like.
All right. So, what's your feelings about this, man?
Stages. I suppose I would just think that there's usually tends to happen that there's something that kind of wakes you up a bit, like in your life. So to start questioning maybe a bit more. So maybe something that kind of just make you start to look outside the rules, if you like, of what you think life should be or what you've been told life should be, and it just doesn't start to feel right anymore. Or you have something that kind of takes you by surprise. It could be an illness or a physical accident, or you lose your job, or partner leaves suddenly. Maybe you don't think it's expected. That type of thing. Sometimes that's often those scenarios in life that seem to try to take us out of our comfort zone, if you like, and out of our everyday story, and we start to kind of go, oh, I wonder what that was about, or what else is there more to life. Maybe you're working really long hours and you start to question, got to be a bit more to life. So that's, for me, seems to be quite common with people, that there's something that just sort of pushes you a little bit to kind of go, there has to be something more, or there's a feeling within you, maybe you've always had it, which this is probably more where I would feel like it came from, is like I probably always felt like I was here to do something bigger in life. I didn't quite know what that was, but I always just felt this pull that I was here to do something else, a bit outside the norm, and probably always questioned a lot of things growing up, different paradigms that we sort of buy into, and even just things like religion, being raised, Catholic religion, and probably just not really gelling with it that much, sort of thing, and sort of questioning different things that were taught. And so I think something like that. But then I wouldn't say that I was necessarily seeking my whole life, but there was like a moment where I got introduced to personal development through a friend, and that was like the first sort of introduction to it, if you like, and it was almost like it answered a lot of the things that I had been going over in my mind for like quite a long time. So I wasn't sort of actively looking for a teacher as such, but like it was almost like I was ready to sort of step into that next stage, and it sort of appeared, sort of thing. And then I sort of started to, that was probably back in 2004 or something. Started on that journey then of really jumping into the personal development type work. And now I'm moving more into personal transformation, but that's kind of where it started.
I think it does start there. Yeah. And Louise is with us this morning. Good morning. And she's saying it too. I think she's hitting it on the head in terms of maybe before you even start the journey of that feeling that you're outside of everything.
Yes.
And I can definitely gel with that. Like, as
not belonging. A lot of people have that feeling of not belonging. Yeah, you don't fit quite into society or something.
Yeah, or you're not something. I didn't sort of feel like I didn't fit into society. I was more like, what are people doing? Like, I just don't get it. Like, it's just doesn't make sense to me, sort of thing. Like, and I can remember that as young as maybe, I was going to say 4, but it probably wasn't that young. But maybe 6 or 7. I don't know. But I was definitely very young, and I was sort of like, there's 2 things. It was like I was never going to work long hours like everybody else was doing. That was just really strong. Like, and I don't know where that came from, other than watching Dad go to work every day and be away from the family for so long. And that I would never struggle for money, which I have done a little bit of struggling for money. But
and you work long hours in the place.
And I work long hours trying to do it, isn't it? Oh, actually, that's really interesting. Okay. There's something in that. I think there's something in that for everyone, but it's particularly me. Shit. Fuck. Okay. All right. Got it now. Got that. Thank you. Thank you, Infinite Mandy. I shall ponder that today. Right. Well, I'm not doing anything else today. You can all just take care of yourself. You can finish up this. I'm just going to go. Well, no, I lost my train of thought. Just feeling, just questioning stuff. Like, there was just a couple of key questions that I would always have as a kid, type thing, and it made me feel quite separate to other people, type thing. It was always like, I'm not going to do that. Like, it just doesn't feel right. It just feels really weird. Why would you do that? Yes. So, and then like you, 2004. I left my career, which is something I had wanted to do since I was a kid, in the police. And that was to try and save my marriage. And then 2 or 3 months later, I left that. So that was sort of everything. Like, my whole world felt like it just fell apart in sort of within a couple of months of each other. So that definitely, we actually had been talking to friends of ours, mutual friends of ours, about Dr. John Demartini's work.
Yes.
And he had a core program coming up not long after that. It was only like a weekend or 2 after I left Kev. And they said, come along to it now. Now's the time. And I was like, yeah, now is the time. Yes. So, and just having such a massive breakthrough, funnily enough, it's called the breakthrough experience.
That's true.
Having such a breakthrough on that weekend, and that feeling of finally coming home, that, as you said, everything answered all the questions that we'd had all these years, and things not adding up.
Yes.
So it was like, oh my God. So I guess that did start the thing. But before that, I guess I actually started on a bit of the path. I think why I sort of ended up giving up work and everything started happening at home was just, it started off as money, like being drawn into the money side of it type thing. It's like, oh, I just want to make more money and have freedom. So that's what I was seeking, freedom. Also,
freedom.
Like we talked about, you're always seeking the feeling, not the actual money itself. Like, it doesn't do anything. So it did start off with that, and we were in network marketing at the time, and so it started us on the personal development path, as you know, like with reading books and listening to audios and all that stuff you do in network marketing. But it was really good. Like, it definitely was starting to question a few things and raise a few points and change some mindset. But then it did move into the money making side of it quite heavily. And then after doing the breakthrough program, that started to fall away a little bit, and I started to realize, it's actually more about me. It's the internal stuff that needs to be shifted now and stuff. So that started a whole other journey, the next phase of that, which is that, I guess, personal awakening. And then yeah, bubbling along sort of thing with that. We did all sorts of things, didn't we? We did theta healing. So we looked at all belief systems and stuff like that. Bruce Lipton, we studied his stuff for a while and did the belief, more that was the biology of the beliefs and stuff like that. So we were sort of quite heavily into that for quite some time, weren't we? The whole deconstructing the belief systems and the patterns that were there.
Yeah. And then the other thing, I think it starts you on maybe sometimes you start on the awakening journey because you feel like you want to improve your life. Like I definitely started with that mindset that was something wrong and I needed to fix it. I definitely had that mindset. And so personal development kind of was like, oh, this is the kind of the answer to that sort of thing. Like this is how I fix myself. So it was, I definitely did go in with that mindset that, oh, there's something wrong with me because I don't seem to be able to make life work like everybody else can. Like everybody else looks like they've got it all together, and for some reason I can't. Like it felt like that, and that just more came from. It wasn't that I wasn't doing work, like I was working and I had a job and I was making money and things. That wasn't, but there was just that feeling that I was here to do something different and I didn't quite know how to do it, and everybody else seemed to be doing things they loved doing and I wasn't. So it was like, how do I do that? Like it was sort of, that was where my questioning was around. It's just like, oh, I feel like can't just show up as me. Like, I definitely had this sense that I wasn't fully fulfilled with what I was doing, and I didn't know how to shift it around. And probably still had some remnants of lack of self belief kind of thing as well going on. Definitely more as a child. I was very shy, and so I definitely had to work at that when I went to university and things like that. But I still felt like there was this underlying sense of not being enough, if you like that. Still didn't quite know if I'd chosen the right career, and even though I was good at it, I still didn't think I was that good at it. It was that sort of feeling still underlying a lot of things. So so I definitely, once we got introduced to the personal development through the network marketing, that was my first introduction to it too. Something within me just kind of sparked, and I kind of went, oh, this is kind of it. Like it feels really inspiring, and it feels really expansive, and it feels really life-changing. And it did. Like it started to shift a whole bunch of things. But then, as you said, that particular thing got caught up more in the money making thing. And basically, it wasn't really about, everything you do is everything to kind of make money at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you're choosing a job or whatever. Usually our motivation does tend to come from making some kind of money out of it. So my focus at the time wasn't on doing what I love, like it was on still making money. But there was that sense of, especially with the network marketing, that it wasn't coming from a space of doing it because I really enjoyed it. Like it 100% came from a money making thing, because I did not gel at all with anything I was doing with fun. It was definitely a force. It felt like I had to force myself all the time. Like, and it was kind of even though I liked the products, it was kind of it just felt like it so wasn't me. Like it was just I was not put on this planet to do that, but I was trying to make myself do it and get excited about it. And it was just like something's kind of not working here either. But I really love the personal development stuff, so that was why I stayed in probably longer than maybe technically I should have, or from the perspective of making the network marketing work. But the personal development, like that kept me going. That's what introduced us to the Jon Demartini work, which was life changing. So
that's right. It was actually through those people that were in network marketing that were hosting John in Australia at the time.
So it all serves. Everything serves you at the end of the day. It doesn't matter the path, I don't think, that you get to, whether you just happen to read a life-changing book that somebody recommends to you, and maybe that's your very first thought about ever that life could be different. Maybe there is another choice, there's another way of being. There's some other people that actually think like you, that you're not the only crazy person in the world that thinks that there's more to life. Question why everyone else is doing the 9 to 5. You not that there's anything wrong with doing a job, it wasn't about that, but you sort of, if you have ever caught a train, say going into the I'm just using Sydney because that's where I grew up, but if you ever caught the train into the city to go to work of a morning, like everyone was just so like
sitting there
sad looking, just so like checked out, just so checked out of life, like just not excited, not talking, not smiling, like nobody looked excited about anything. And it was sort of like that was the energy that everybody had, like as if it was like, oh, I have to do this and I don't get to do what I love for the whole day. And then once I
Yeah.
finish work, then I get to kind of maybe enjoy like half an hour of the thing that I really love doing. But so there was always that sense that I never felt, I could never get that. Like it
No,
just never
that's
felt right.
right. I
That
could understand stuff.
feeling. Yeah. So it was
Yeah.
like almost then when you get introduced to something that kind of starts to turn the lights on a bit more,
Mm.
and answer some of those questions maybe about a different way of being, that then it's, yeah, something kind of gets sparked within you and you can't turn it back off again. It's like you've seen the
That's what I
truth
was
now and you
gonna
cannot switch it
say
back off again.
too. Like once you've
Yeah.
seen the truth, you can't unsee it.
Yeah. It's
And
really
once
hard
you
to go
start,
back to your normal way of being. Yeah.
yeah, questioning things and stuff, those questions will always be there until they're answered. And yeah, you can't go back. And I guess that's where people do get really restless, because they have had a glimpse of what's possible of their true nature, which is just abundance and flow and creativity and do what you feel like doing in each moment. Once you've had a taste of that, it's really tough to go back
Yes.
to being any other way.
Yeah.
So it does cause that restlessness and frustration and confusion, questioning sort of, how do I make that work then? Like, how am I going to make money from just floating around? Like the ego sort of goes, well, you can't just float around sort of thing
Yeah.
and like take days off and work when you want. And, you know, you might, what if you only work 5 minutes, you know, like for the day, like how's that going to sustain you? It's all that stuff goes on. Like it's definitely
Yes.
a bit of a rough ride at times.
Yeah, that is the thing, I think, I suppose too, is that something gets turned on within you that you feel like, oh, this is what I'm going to start looking into this more now. Like this is kind of really energizing me, and I can see how this is going to really assist me to move some of these things that I just know haven't been working for me, but I just didn't know how to kind of let them go, or how to shift them, or even just having some mental understanding sometimes of things that have happened to you, like is helpful, you know, just that awareness of, oh, that's why that happened that way. Like I kind of get that now, and that makes a bit more sense. And sometimes it just puts the mind at ease as well. And um, where's going to go? I'll read this first and I'll come back.
Yeah, Mike's fine. So Louise just said it's finding others that feel and see the same way to be able to keep it on track. Absolutely. It's too easy to fall back into those old familiar patterns in life. It really is. It's so, particularly in the beginning, you really got to virtually learning a whole new way of being, a whole new way of life. That's so unfamiliar. It's familiar, but it's not familiar. It feels really familiar and like you're coming home, but in the everyday reality of that is everything has to shift. Your whole outlook has to shift. All your friends will probably shift. Your work will shift. Like all the stuff that's been stable in your life probably will end up shifting. Maybe even your relationship, your money situation will change. Like, and a lot of people do go through that complete collapse of everything in their life when they start this process, and that's so scary. You know, suddenly you lose your job, and then you've got no money, and then your friend, you know, you don't gel with your friends anymore, and you're sort of questioning whether you can keep those sort of conversations that you used to have going all the time, and that's like, it's just not gelling anymore. Maybe your family is not getting you anymore as well. Like you used to fit in really well, and now they're sort of like, oh, you've really changed. I don't really get you so much anymore. You talk really weird language. Like just all these things that were so secure in our life suddenly, or over a short period of time, complete upheaval type thing. And it's like, whoa, what the hell is going on? Like, and it is almost this, and it seems like most people go through this complete dismantling of your life as you know it, and a rebuilding of that and a restructuring of the entire thing.
Yes. I think that's where I was going a little bit at that point that I started. And I was going to say, you do start to get excited about what changes you could start to make. So you start to look at, you know, maybe one particular area of your life, maybe the area that got sparked the most when you first were introduced to something, you know, like a book or something. And so you might start to look at one area, then it just because they're all intertwined, you then have to start looking at, okay, so maybe you start looking at work, say, for example, okay, I'm not happy with my job. What I love to do, and so you start looking at that, but then that raises questions about, oh, well, I'm not really quite satisfied now with my relationship, and I could make some improvements to my health to make myself feel better. And so it's all coming from that wanting to be more empowered space, but because everything's intertwined and all our belief systems are overlaid, you can't just look at one area of life. Like, you might start with one area, but it just naturally leads into other areas too. So then it does start to become like, well, I found it's a little bit too, it's just like, oh, wow, like there's so much things now I could change and shift up. And so you are sort of excited to do it, but then it does become a little bit like what you were just sharing that about. Sometimes it then can look like pulling the rug out from under yourself, if you like, because you start to question everything. And because they are such fundamental beliefs that cover all areas of your life, can start to look like everything's kind of crumbling away. And that can be a little bit scary, but it's only to the ego that it is scary. And I was going to say, it is the whole thing that's crumbling away is just the ego stories. That's the truth of it all. It's not really that your whole life is crumbling away. If anything, you're sort of opening up more to the truth of who you truly are. You've just never really tapped into it or allowed yourself to even feel it out or be that way before, because it's always felt like a bit outside your comfort zone, or maybe you just didn't even have an awareness of it. Like, sometimes it's just a whole new world that you had absolutely no idea existed, that you could actually shift your reality by changing your thoughts and looking at your belief system, and that you actually had a power on your own reality, if you like, that it doesn't happen to you. You start to learn, like, oh, well, I actually have some choice in this matter. It's just been unconscious up until this point. Now I can start to bring some awareness to it. But it can get quite scary at times, because you're in between those two worlds. It starts to feel like you're walking out of one 3D world and you're walking into this other world, but you're not quite established yet in that way of being. So you feel like you're a little bit in no man's land sometimes.
It does feel very much no man's land, and you're 100% right in terms of feet in both worlds. Like, you've got it in the old world and the old construct, and you're trying to make that work still, and it's not working. That's, I think, everything sort of points to the fact that what used to work doesn't work anymore, and that sometimes that's the actual wake-up call. It's like, oh, I used to do this, and now that's actually not having the same result it used to, whatever that might be. But then, you've been partially awakened to this new world sort of thing, and it's like, oh my God, I feel the draw to that, because that feels like my natural state. Oh, what do I do? Like, how do I make this work? And I guess really, like, this is the basis of what we actually spoke about, in terms of, we felt a calling to talk about consciousness stuff now that we've been on the journey of, and as we were trying to decide what would that actually be, what would be our one thing that we would really talk about, that really felt true for us. And we went, the infinite. Like, let's go straight to the top. Like, you're already infinite. You don't have to keep trying to find it or discover it. How do we just use it in everyday life? How do we see it in everyday life? Because it's already here. So in doing that, I felt like that was a step towards stepping out of both worlds and helping ourselves, and in the process helping others sort of go, I'm just deciding to be in the infinite world now. Like, I can just play in that world, and it will have the influence on reality, and it will shift reality as well to what I love, if we just focus on the infinite and that space instead. So really making that decision. And I remember Gaz Lowe, who's a good friend of ours, we often talk about her. She does Bondi Guru. She does the daily horoscopes. So her family is Persian, and her brother, we've also done a lot of work with Amir. And I remember going to their mum's place for lunch. They would often get together on a Sunday for a big slap-up lunch. And I remember sitting there with Gaz, and her mum is known as the Oracle, and for good reason. She is an amazing, amazing lady. And she doesn't speak a lot of English, but she'll just sort of sit there, just observing what's going on. And then she sort of said to Gaz and I, one day you'll wake up to the fact that you have feet in both worlds, but you have to choose which one you're going to play in. You can't stay in both. And I was just like, Okay. Now, I didn't 100% get it at the time.
Yeah.
This is quite early on in my journey type thing. But you can always just tell when she would say something that there was something there in it. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm going to stay with that. And it stayed with me for years. And then bit by bit, I finally got what she was talking about. And it is exactly what we're talking about here, is
Yes.
that the old construct, you're trying to make the old things work, but you're being drawn into a new world, literally a new earth, as
Yes.
𝘾𝙤𝙧𝙚 𝙪𝙨 has talked about.
Yes.
And you have to make a decision about which playground you're going to play in now.
Yeah.
And the infinite one's definitely a lot more fun, but it's hard to navigate between the two, definitely, and to make that transition across. So
Yeah.
hopefully a lot of these conversations are helping all of us, including ourselves.
Yeah.
And I know it has been, because we've gone 50 something days now, and it's like, wow, I'm really waking up to some really different ways of looking at things now.
Yeah.
The more we're talking about this, and the more engaging this, and the more you bring this into your everyday life, these thought patterns and ways of being, they do show up differently. And you do, every moment you sort of slip back into the storyline and you're in the story again, it's like,
Yes.
no, I can see what I'm doing now. I'm pulling myself back out. I'm extracting myself back out of the story, and I'm going to play the infinite game. Like, it's that conscious choice every day.
Yes.
I just wanted to acknowledge Jasmine. Hello, Jasmine. Where are you coming from? Let us know where you're coming from.
Jasmine's in New Zealand.
She's in New Zealand.
Yes.
Oh, you know Jasmine?
Yes. I know Jasmine through Jennifer Hoff's work.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So Jasmine said, I'm finding that too. When your vibration changes, everything else has to shift as well. Yeah. And yes, no man's land.
Yep.
We're probably all quite familiar with no man's land.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely that stage you go through, like you said, that you almost feel like you're in neither world. Like you don't fit back into the normal three. It's good to choose the infinite. Yep.
Choose the infinite. Put that on a t-shirt, man.
Yep.
It's gonna be one of our.
Choose the infinite. Yeah.
Yeah. I choose the infinite.
Yeah, that's good actually. But yeah, there is that sense of, that the 3D way of doing stuff. And when I say 3D world, I just mean that, like, the ego way of doing, pretty much like 99% of humanity is still living, very much by not questioning the rules, just going along with stuff, not really sort of doing what they love, and just sort of mediocre life, and just putting up with stuff.
Not realizing that there is a way, like there's also a position outside the story. You have to be,
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, that being very that everything's happening to you, like it's you're a victim of everything that happens. You don't have control over anything. You're at the mercy of it all, like that sort of a mindset, which a lot of us are in that space. Like, that's the thing, we get sort of something just kind of taps us on the shoulder, and we start to kind of go, peek beneath the covers, that there is something a little bit more to everything, and we're more the creator of it all rather than being the victim, as you said, so but then you go through those stages of starting to wake up a bit more to yourself, and start to feel more inspired, and start to make some more empowered choices, and then it can go into that state of feeling really you just want to tell everybody about it now, because
like
you're so excited about, oh my God, did you know that you could do this, like, that there's this whole other world. But it can come very much from a self-righteous perspective sometimes, that better
I found
now.
the answer.
Yeah, it's like, yes, I've seen the truth now, and so the way you're doing it is not the right way. Not that you would phrase it like that, but that's the energy behind it, if you like. And sometimes it can come across very much that way. I know I definitely went through that stage of being.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I think that's seems to be a pretty normal part of the journey, from what I've witnessed anyway.
Yeah.
And just how long you stay in that stage varies. Some people do stay in that stage for a very long time, and don't actually kind of progress to that next level of kind of going, well, it's not really about telling everybody else about it, it's about me. Like, I'm the creator of it all. So the focus needs to be on me, and I need to draw my energy inwards from all those stories, rather than trying to make everybody else understand it and get it. And some of that comes from stories too, like maybe from your childhood you weren't really ever understood, or you didn't feel like you were listened to very much, or taken seriously, or whatever story you had running. So that often tends to then reflect back on your awakening journey too. You try to be understood more, you try to make your point, and people could get you more, and because it's almost like you're looking for that now because suddenly you've got the answer as to why that was happening. But
yeah,
it's still coming from an ego space of wanting that validation and wanting to be recognized. And so suddenly
yeah,
you start to kind of go, oh, okay, now I'm falling for that game. So it's like just these different levels of games that we start to waken up to, if you like, and we start to pull our energy out of those ones now and start looking at bigger constructs in our life that running us a bit more. So things like time, which we've spoken about before. So like larger sort of arcing paradigms, if you like, that underlie society. You know, could be money or something else that's gone out of my head, but like just those like bigger, you start to tackle bigger kind of issues in your life, if you like you start to look very sort of small things, I think, in the beginning. How do I just feel a little bit better? How do I find a better job? Like, which is all very valid points, you know, along the journey, definitely. But then you start to ask sort of bigger questions like, okay, well, how do I free myself from that thing now? Like, how do, you know, so time has been a big one for me, which we've spoken about before. Like, how do I pull that story apart now? Like that big thing that overarches so many different areas of our life, and that feels particularly, you know, strong for me. So each person will have their own story that's been really running them throughout their life based on your history.
Yeah, I agree. It does go into the bigger life topics or the society's topics even. You know, for us, we started to really question about, I guess, having a normal life type thing, having a place to live. You know, we travel full time, and we have done for 7 years now. So we don't have a home. We don't own property anywhere. We just have our 2 bags, and that's all we own, basically. So it's interesting as you navigate that. And I know, you know, the whole being a nomad type thing is still relatively new. There's not many people that live like that, where they actually do travel full time. So I know in society it's definitely a new concept, and it's becoming bigger because people can work from anywhere now with their laptops. And we do the same thing. We can work from anywhere. So we choose to be in different cities all the time, or different places. So it does, as we've gone along, it's been really interesting to try and navigate, because it's almost like you're not a person unless you've got an address.
Yeah, true.
You can't fill out a form for anything. It's just like trying to get a card, you know, a debit card now, or just anything online. Like, there's just so many things that you sign up for, and it says, what's your address? And I was like,
in a fixed address.
Here we go again. We don't know what it is. Like, we could use Jodie's mum and dad's, maybe. I don't know. Like, we just sort of make it up as we go along half the time, because we really don't know. We don't. We're now outside of the tax system in Australia because we're not a resident anymore, and we haven't been for, you know, sort of half a dozen years. So, and then that causes its own set of things, because you're trying to fill out forms for where you're a tax resident for. And I was like, well, I'm not actually a tax resident. So it's like, now we've got another set of problems. Then the banking system, and it's like trying to fit now into the banking system, like where you're traveling around all the time. It's like, for crying out loud, like. And it's sort of so interesting that you sort of keep getting drawn back into old structures, and I see them as old structures, like the whole banking system itself. This whole security, banking, all that stuff is so ridiculous. And everyone's still trying to you know, the governments are still trying to control people, the banks are still trying to control people. And it's like there's a set group of people now that are not fitting into that system anymore. And it's literally like we have pulled away entirely from that system now, and dropped out of life as such, even though we're online all the time. So it's sort of really interesting to navigate, and it's been going on for years, trying to work out every moment sort of thing that we do something, we're trying to work out how we're going to get around that. Not from an invasive type way, but it's just like you just don't fit into the system anymore, and it's like you're legitimately trying to work out what to do with it. So it's I'll just put up this from Louise, who is also nomadic. Living a nomadic lifestyle does lend itself to self-reflection, open to new ways of being, really just free from attachments. It does, and it drops you out of traditional society, definitely. So you do have to operate outside of the constructs of how most society, 99.9% of people, actually live. And it's just really interesting to be on the outside of that, looking back in, coming home to Australia every now and then, and seeing how people are still within that system.
Yes.
And it's just a system that I just do not agree with anymore, the whole banking system. And stepping outside of it to be able to look back in on it and just go, it's just so masculine, it's full of ego, it's greed, it's this, that, and the other. It's not to say we don't have bank accounts, of course we do,
No.
but to not actually buy into that system anymore and to not support a system like that.
Yes.
It's interesting. I guess you then start to have a choice about what constructs you actually support.
Yes.
And you end up, I guess, gravitating towards other types of banking systems. It might be people's banks. You've got all these sorts of constructs that are now starting to form, where they are a little bit more along the lines of a conscious construct.
Yes.
And you get to support those instead. And that's definitely where we've headed in all those different areas, as much as we possibly can right now. But I agree. It's like as you go along, you get these bigger constructs that you start questioning. You can really question your entire lifestyle if you wanted to, and not fitting into society at all.
Yes.
It can get to that extent.
Yeah. And I think you just start to disengage from different things too. So I was just thinking about, you really start to pull away from watching news or any type of media kind of whether that's online reading articles or it's watching TV, listening to radio. I definitely just found like just didn't even want it in my space anymore, because there's just story after story of bad news all the time. It's just like what do you do with that? Like doesn't do anything for you. Like you hear a story and you don't know the person that thing happened to, or all it does is breed fear within your mind of like, oh, okay, better not do that now, avoid that area, don't do this. Like it's all these limitations that we keep sort of buying into and reinforcing every time we watch it. So you really just start to pull away from anything that just feels really heavy. And that could be people as well. They could be people that just have those type of conversations all the time, and you just don't gel with that energy anymore. You're just completely different space now. You can feel how that affects your thought patterns and your approach to life, and how it sucks the creativity out of you. Like you don't feel inspired sometimes when you're around those people, and you just think, I can't be in that space anymore. And you have to just start making some conscious choices about cutting things out of your life that just don't serve anymore. And that could be activities too that you do. It could be maybe you play a certain sport, but you're only doing it because you think you should do it because your friend down the road does it with you and you said you would. And so you just start to question everything. Like it starts to come up in every area of your life, like all the different little things that you do. You start to just see how it feels heavy, and you have to start moving away from it and make some hard choices. And sometimes it is a bit rocky there for a while, and you do have to start sort of standing up for yourself, if you like, and taking bolder choices and stepping outside of your comfort zone, which don't always get met with, outside friends and family don't always agree with what you're doing, or think that you're joined a cult, which was something that our parents used to think about us, which they probably still do.
Which is sort of quite funny, coming from the largest cult that they belong to, known as the Catholic Church. Louise was saying most of society is living in fear, and it's a way to control the masses.
Yeah, definitely.
It totally is. Like it's things like the banking system, governments, religion's a typical one. That's where it all started. And we're talking structured religions here. We're not talking spiritual.
Not spirituality in itself.
Spirituality itself, of course.
Yeah. But I think that is just thinking the movie The Matrix was kind of not, it's quite funny. I was listening to a talk by Bruce Lipton, who we've spoken about before, who is an epigeneticist, a biologist, and he looks at how beliefs are embedded at that biological level, if you like from childhood and things like that. But I always remember he referred to The Matrix. He said, "Oh, Matrix, the movie." He said, "Oh, in my mind, it's actually a documentary because it is so close to actually what actually happens." We wake up, we suddenly start to see all the programming that's going on outside of us. So exactly like what Louise has just said, like we are programmed to buy into the fear. Like we're just fed it fear from every single angle to keep us disempowered, to not wake up. So our journey here in this world is to wake up to who we truly are and start to be that way in the world. Like that's the infinite game, if you like. That's what the infinite consciousness was creating. It was created this limitation game of the human game, and we came in here thinking we're limited and separate, and we created the ego to keep us thinking that as well. And then suddenly we start to wake up and we see the bigger picture, and we see behind the curtain a bit more, like say the Wizard of Oz, when you start to see the wizard who's behind everything, and you kind of go, wow, is that it? Like,
yeah, no,
really? Like it's kind of like
what on earth?
you start to feel like you're the one behind it all. So you're the ones that can now start to influence what's going on, and how do you consciously start to do that? So it does become a bit more from that outside world. You start to draw it right back in to yourself, focusing on yourself. And then I think, to me, it feels like then you start going back out the other way, because now you know yourself as the infinite feeling moving through you. So now you can start to focus outward again, because you know you're not being influenced now by the outside. It's coming from within you. So it's a very different way of being. You get to act on that feeling coming through you, which feels true and inspired, versus reacting to everything outside of you anymore. So it feels very different. So it's kind of goes one way and then back out again or something. That's what it feels a bit to me.
Yeah, pure action rather than reaction to things. Yeah, actually. And then you are changing your reality. And I guess we have talked about that before, that you can't change what's already manifested on the outside of you. You have to change the inside and then let it reflect on the outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the big step for I think both of us on our journey too was we did some work with Robert Scheinfeld, or Bob Scheinfeld, who we've spoken about before. So we did his course called Busting Loose from the Money Game, and he's offers a whole bunch of other things as well, but that was our first introduction to his work. And it was the first one that kind of, for me anyway, kind of really posed this in a really simple way, this concept that what the infinite game is all about, if you like, that the human game, we're here to kind of wake up to the limitations that we've put upon ourselves and really know ourselves as that creator, the infinite being, and then come back in to kind of play the game, if you like. So we that particular course was around money, like it's called Busting Loose from the Money Game, as I said. So it was focused on particularly the money system, but looking at it for the illusion that it actually is, and how much we get so drawn into that, and how we put so much power, we've invested so much power outside of ourselves. And so it became all about sort of drawing your power back out of those stories and seeing them for the magic tricks that they are, if you like, the illusions that we've bought into. And then they just all start to crumble away once you start to look at it from that angle. But that was for me, it was probably the first introduction to that real sense of infinite being, and like,
infiniteness,
behind it all. So even though we had been doing a bunch of other work, it just hadn't sunk in like that way. Maybe it was just the simplicity of the way he presented it, I think, was definitely part of the light going on, if you like, in that sort of area. And he had a really good analogy, which we really like too, is around this idea that a movie, if you think of like a movie screen, you're watching a movie, you're sitting in a cinema watching a movie, and you're looking at the screen in front of you, and you're just watching it as a movie. So you know it's not real, but you get drawn into it. Like you go along with the story, you get pulled by the emotions and the experiences that the characters go through, but you ultimately know, always in the back of your mind, that it's not real. It is just an experience, a story that you're being told. And so then you walk out of the cinema and you go about your everyday life. But that was like an analogy for what our life is actually like. We're sitting here in a movie watching it all play out in front of us, and we are the character in our own story, but we're also the person that is behind the camera writing the story. We're also the character in the story, as I said, like we're the actors, we're the script writer. We get to write the scripts for everybody else in our story as well. So if we think of that movie screen analogy, when you're watching a movie, you can't go up to the screen and sort of change anything on the screen. Like it's already there. The movie's
liquid paper people out.
Yeah. The movie's already been produced. Like it's there, you're watching it play out in front of you. So that's like what reality is. We can't actually change it directly in front of us. We have to go back into the like the projector at the back of the movie cinema, and that's the thing that's projecting the actual movie out. So we'd actually have to change the whole film reel that was, being projected through to have any effect on what's happening on that screen. So it's the same with us. It's like if we're the infinite creator, then we have to actually change it from the inside for it to actually shift on the outside of us. Otherwise, we're just looking at manifestations that have already happened, and we can't shift those.
Yep.
We try to, and we probably convince ourselves that we do make an effect on the outside world, but it's
sort of,
not actually.
It looks like it does
Yeah,
change.
it's part of the illusion, if you like. It's like it looks so real that we think, oh, but no, but I did X and it had that effect. And it's just like, it did, but it still was a decision that came from inside you. So it's kind of this real shift on focus of shifting it back inside all the time. That's what the thing that kind of really kept landing with me. Kind of going, oh, okay, it always has to be that inside job. It can never be outside of me. So anytime I try to do something outside of me, it's never going to work, or it's going to be very limited in its effect, if you like. You don't have access to that infinite potential when we're coming from that outside, trying to shift it from the outside all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Here's one from Jody. Where are you, Jody? Are you down the street? Get home now. I know when I tap into curiosity and the idea of playing a game to have fun with the playing, everything shifts me. It does.
Yeah.
100% does. It's it really is about being curious, isn't it? Like, I guess the infinite is the nothingness, and that's the scary part, but it's also the exciting part too, is that
definitely.
you're never sure what's going to turn up, but I guess you can always be sure that it's going to be pretty exciting, and it's probably a lot more exciting than what you could ever come up with. So to actually stay in there, that's quite funny.
I think that whole idea of the game, actually, just thinking to kind of wrap it up a bit, is just sort of feeling like that has been the biggest shift, I think, for myself, and I'd probably say for you too, that we've realized in the last few months that we've been focusing on this new business of ours, and even coming up, as we said, with the name The Infinite Me, and focusing on how do you live this infinite lifestyle now, rather than it being, say, just about freedom, or just about because that's probably where we started, thinking, oh, it's about being free, and it's about it's like, no, it's more than that. Like, it's bigger than that. Like, it's this overarching thing. And so this infinite space, and is that play space that Jodie was just talking about. It's like the more we keep putting ourselves back into that space and knowing yourself that this is all just a game that we're playing, and it is an illusion outside of myself. It always has to be an inside job. I'm the one that gets to write the script. And it's not coming from that ego space of the little me writing the script. It's coming from, no, there's something bigger than me, and I'm here as this vehicle in this world to play out this feeling, if you like, and to play this game and this role. But the more I keep shifting my focus back into that space, everything has shifted dramatically in the last few months, even more again. So it's kind of like there is that constant reminder of stepping into that space even more. Seems to me it's almost like it's not like the last frontier, if you like, but it kind of feels like all the different stages that you do go through in the awakening journey to actually start to know yourself as that space. And it's definitely not 100% all the time for me still at that space, but more and more and more it's becoming exponentially so. Like, the more I keep reminding myself that I'm coming from that space, or if I get caught up in something and you kind of see it so much quicker, and I go, okay, I'm not going from the little limited me again, like, and you pull yourself back out of it again, and that process is getting quicker and quicker and quicker, and so much easier to pull myself out of it. But to stay in the play space that Jodie's talking about, that's the most important thing that I've noticed for myself, is just staying really playful and in the unknown as much as I can, and how things just start to flow and shift and quickly.
The joy to that, isn't there? Like, there's a natural joy. So all the things that we're seeking in the outside world, if we just played in the infinite space, and you're right, the word is play, then the joy is there, the abundance is there, the health is there, like everything like we talked about yesterday, is like our natural progression is towards health and abundance. That's who you are. So if you got out of the way, like, you'd actually have those things. Here's just Jodie. Even when playing roles, I like observing myself get dramatic or feisty or whatever. It feels like playing because it can be observed and not judged, like when unaware previously. It's, you get to be any character, be whatever you like, and you're not, as long as you're not in the story, you get to really have fun with any of those characters that you want to play. And we have talked about that before. It's like, then you get the whole range of emotions available to you to use and express with. So you want to use anger, you're not an angry person anymore. An
Yeah.
angry person is somebody who's actually in the story being angry.
Yeah.
You actually get to step outside of the story and go, you know what, I'm going to use anger right now in my storyline because that's what suits me. Or I want to be joyful, or I want to be sad right now. Like, you get the full range of emotions. It doesn't matter which one you choose off the shelf. You choose whichever one you want to express with.
It's like it's not an
who
identity
you
anymore.
are. Yeah.
You don't identify it as like, oh, this is actually who I am. It's actually, it becomes more like, no, this is a feeling moving through me. It's not who I am at my core. But before, in the story, we would say that, oh, I'm a shy person, I'm a extroverted person, and there are aspects of their personality, but they don't,
an angry person.
Yeah, they don't sum up who we are as like a physical being. Like it's still something we get to play with. We can shift that around as well.
Yeah, they're just expression, tools for expression.
Yeah.
How we want to use our words. But,
Yes.
I guess there's one last thing I wanted to say that came up when you're talking about Bob Scheinfeld's work, which was pretty life-changing program to do, and a lot of the concepts that we learned there, we're obviously talking about here now, was the whole idea of magic. And I remember him speaking about this quite early on in the program, and the reason he tackled the money thing, if you recall, was that because that's where most people were at.
Yeah.
So if you could tackle the money thing and say busting loose from the money game, then we could pretty much tackle any topic. Because that was the one that would always draw us back in. So so all the principles still applied to every area of life.
Yeah, they do.
The whole magic thing was really interesting. He'd sort of say, watch this film clip of this magic trick, and you'd be sort of drawn in, and you'd be going, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, how did they do that? Like, how did they saw that woman in half? Or how does that guy get out of the chains and he's upside down and he's in the tank and it's full of water, and oh my God, that's amazing. Like, and so you are drawn into the magic. There has to be some sort of magic to it, some illusion.
Superhuman skill.
Yeah. But then when you go behind the scenes and you actually have the magician show you how he does that trick, then the illusion is gone. You can never be eluded to that trick again. And there is no magic left. And it doesn't mean that there's no magic in life if you start waking up and you see all the illusions. It's a whole other magic that I guess comes along with that.
It starts to get more creative than an imaginative. You get to play with it all.
Then you really feel the true magic, not the illusion magic. But I just remember him sort of really making that point, and it's such an important point, is like, once you've seen how a magic trick happens, how the illusion happens, like reality, then you can never go back and you can never be eluded by it again. And it's like, it's true. So it really is worth pulling the wool out of our eye, from our eyes type of thing, and seeing the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jasmine, it's Robert Scheinfeld. Jodie's just put that in the chat there. So Jasmine was just asking what's the name of what you're talking about. So Robert Scheinfeld, and he did a program, and he's also got a book called Busting Loose from the Money Game. Very, very cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool.
Definitely will shift your way of being. Not just way of thinking, but way of being in the world. Very cool. That was cool.
Yes.
So the ultimate point is being infinite. That's exciting.
Which is where we
did say that right from the very beginning, didn't we? When we started talking about what are we going to talk about? Like, we feel drawn to talking about something. What will we talk about? It's like, let's go straight to the end point, being infinite. That you're already infinite. We've already got it. How can we use it?
And it is a huge concept. It takes some time to settle into it and embody it, and that's what the journey is, I suppose. Now it's just like learning how to play with it all and know yourself more. Of that, the more you can do it, then
and make that choice every moment when it pops up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. It's been awesome, and let us know in the comments if you're watching the replay, what you're getting out of this, where are you in the journey?
All right.
And cool. All right.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. Oh, Jodie's coming home now. Okay, son. See you. See you soon, baby. Don't forget the big outs. All right. So we'll see everyone tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Stay infinite.